The novel Dracula in chapter 5 completely changes from the novel Dracula in chapters 1 through 4. Okay. This is when it becomes a real monster movie of a novel. I'm Randy. This is the Literate Texan, and I'm hosting a book club, the Lone Star Book Club. Our pick for October is the novel Dracula, and every Friday I'm posting a discussion video that I'm hoping you'll participate in by either making a response video to, or commenting down in the comments, or participating in our Voxer group. Those are the three options for participating in our discussion of Dracula this month. But I hope you'll discuss some of the points that I brought up and bring up your own points too. But here's what I mean when I say that Dracula becomes more of a monster movie in chapters 5 through 10. In chapters 1 through 4, you've got two characters. You've got Dracula and you've got Jonathan Harker. You've got a bunch of really, really super minor characters. But basically, it's just about the two of them. And they've got this kind of chess game going on between them over, am I the host or am I your jailer? Are you my prisoner or are you my guest kind of thing going on. And it's pretty scary and creepy. And it doesn't get scarier in chapters 6 through 10. It just widens the book's scope. The story gets much, much, much bigger at this point because you're basically assembling your team of fearless vampire hunters here, okay? The chapters 6 through 10 are where we get introduced to Lucy and Mina, who was Mina's referred to several times in the first 4 chapters by Jonathan because, he talks about her a lot. Well, it turns out that's his fiance. We learned that in chapter 6, or maybe it's chapter 5, but it's in this section. Anyway, this is when you've read through chapter 10, you've read through about 40% of the novel. So, in fact, by next week, you want to have read through chapters 15 or 16, maybe through chapter 17, something like that. Give or take. Everybody's reading at their own pace, but the discussions are taking it at about roughly 5 chapters at a time. But yeah, so you're assembling your band of fearless monster hunters. You've got Lucy and Mina. Of course, they're not really monster hunters. They're the victims, more or less. And then you've got the 3 guys who are trying to get engaged to Lucy. They are all in love with her and stuff. Mina actually, at the end of chapters 1 through 4, you've got Jonathan Harker planning his escape from Castle Dracula. He's going to make a run for it. And it's a desperate escape. You're not sure he's going to make it. And you expect when you go to chapter 5 that you're going to continue on with his story. But no, he kind of disappears. And he doesn't show back up until much later when Mina tracks him down and finds him at this convent where he apparently has escaped and is being taken care of by these nuns. So yeah, you've got the crew assembling. It kind of reminds me, in terms of a fantasy role-playing game, if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, there's a very cliched way of getting all the adventurers together, okay? You have them meet in a tavern, and there's a wizard there who sends them on a quest. Well, these guys don't all meet in a tavern, but they are all mutually acquainted with each other through their social connections, and they do have a wizard figure who's sending them on a quest, and that's Van Helsing, of course. Van Helsing is, of course, the mentor to one of the characters. But not only that, you're also introduced to Renfield, who's sort of, and it's not made clear what his relationship with Count Dracula is yet, but it is pretty clear he's got a relationship with him. And, you're going to learn that he is Dracula's familiar. He carries out Dracula's wishes that Dracula can't carry out himself, because let's face it, Dracula can't get out during the day. That limits the things that you can do. Also, Dracula's only one person. And so, Renfield plays sort of the same role as the gypsies do in the first 4 chapters. But also, I want to point out, you could make a movie out of chapters 1 through 4 all by themselves, okay? Now, it might be a short, but you could probably expand it, make it into a movie all by itself. You could make the whole novel of Dracula into a movie, and they've done it over 200 times. But there's never been a really faithful adaptation. I think probably the best way to approach Dracula would be as a miniseries. BBC did a miniseries of Dracula that I liked, although it kind of turned what was written in the novel on its ear and did different stuff with it. The guys who did the BBC Dracula miniseries are the same guys who did the Sherlock Holmes miniseries. And of course, you know, they decided to change things up. They decided to, okay, we're going to take the canon and we're going to play with it a little bit. They do the same thing with Dracula. But I want to do some reading here of, my contention is the Log of Demeter is a horror story within a horror story. It's a horror novel within a horror novel, okay? And recently they made a movie out of just it. It was called, I think it was called The Voyage of the Demeter. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. But this is in chapter 7 of Dracula. Now, you could take the whole of chapter 7 and read it as one horror story by itself. But you can also just pick out, if you want to, just a smaller section inside of that. It's a horror story within a horror story. And that's Log of the Demeter. Varna to Whitby, written 18 July, things so strange happening that I shall keep accurate note henceforth till we land. On 6 July, we finished taking in cargo, silver, sand, and boxes of earth. At noon set sail. East wind fresh. Crew, 5 hands. 2 mates, cook, and myself, the captain. On 11 July, at dawn, entered Bosphorus, boarded by Turkish customs officers. Backsheesh, all correct, underway at 4 p.m. On 12 July, through Dardanelles, more customs officers and flagboat of guarding squadrons. Backsheesh again. Work of officers thorough but quick. Want us off soon. At dark, passed into archipelago. On 13 July, passed Cape Matapan. Crew dissatisfied about something. Seemed scared, but would not speak out. On 14 July, was somewhat anxious about crew. Men are all steady fellows who sailed with me before. Mate could not make out what was wrong. They only told him there was something and crossed themselves. Mate lost temper with one of them that day and struck him. Expected fierce quarrel, but all was quiet. On 16 July, Mate reported in the morning that one of the crew, Petrovsky, was missing. Could not account for it. Took larboard watch, 8 bells last night, was relieved by Abramov, but did not go to bunk. Men more downcast than ever. All said they expected something of the kind, but would not say more than there was something aboard. Mate getting very impatient with them, feared some trouble ahead. On 17 July, yesterday, one of the men, old Garen, came to my cabin and in an awestruck way confided to me that he thought there was a strange man aboard the ship. He said that in his watch he had been sheltering behind the deck house as there was a rainstorm when he saw a tall, thin man who was not like any of the crew come up the companionway and go along the deck forward and disappear. He followed cautiously, but when he got to bows, found no one, and the hatchways were all closed. He was in a panic of superstitious fear, and I am afraid the panic may spread. To allay it, I shall today search the entire ship carefully from stern to stern. Later in the day, I got together the whole crew and told them, as they evidently thought there was someone in the ship, we would search from stern to stern. First mate angry, said it was folly, and to yield to such foolish ideas would demoralize the men. Said he would engage to keep them out of trouble with a handspike. I let him take the helm while the rest began thorough search, all keeping abreast, with lanterns. We left no corner unsearched. As there were only the big wooden boxes, there were no odd corners where a man could hide. Men much relieved when search over and went back to work cheerfully. First mate scowled, but said nothing. 22 July. Rough weather last 3 days and all hands busy with sails. No time to be frightened. Men seemed to have forgotten their dread. Mate cheerful again and all on good terms. Praised men for work in bad weather. Past Gibraltar and out through straits, all well. 24 July. There seems some doom over this ship. Already a hand short and entering on the Bay of Biscay with wild weather ahead, and yet last night another man lost, disappeared. Like the first, he came off his watch and was not seen again. Men all in a panic of fear, sent a round robin asking to have double watch as they fear to be alone. Mate angry. Fear there will be some trouble as either he or the men will do some violence. 28 July. 4 days in hell. Knocking about in a sort of maelstrom and the wind a tempest. No sleep for anyone. Men all worn out, hardly know how to set a watch since no one's fit to go on. Second mate volunteered to steer and watch and let men snatch a few hours' sleep. Wind abating, seas still terrific, but feel them less as ship is steadier. 29 July, another tragedy. Had single watch tonight as crew's too tired to double. When morning watch came on deck, could find no one except steersman. Raised outcry and all came on deck. Thorough search, but no one found. Are now without second mate and crew in a panic. Mate and I agreed to go armed henceforth and wait for any sign of cause. 30 July, last night. Rejoiced we are nearing England. Weather fine, all sails set. Retired, worn out. Slept soundly. Awaked by mate telling me that both man of watch and steersman missing. Only self and mate and 2 hands left to work ship. 1 August, 2 days of fog and not a sail sighted. Had hoped when in the English Channel to be able to signal for help or get in somewhere. Not having power to work sails, have to run before wind. Dare not lower as could not raise them again. We seem to be drifting to some terrible doom. Mate, now more demoralized than either of men. His stronger nature seems to work inwardly against himself. Men are beyond fear, working stolidly and patiently with minds made up to worst. They are Russian, he Romanian. 2 August, midnight. Woke up from a few minutes' sleep by hearing a cry, seemingly outside my port. Could see nothing in fog. Rushed on deck and ran against mate. Tells me he heard cry and ran, but no sign of man on watch. One more gone. Lord help us. Mate says we must be past the Straits of Dover, as in a moment of fog lifting, he saw North Foreland, just as he heard the man cry out. If so, we are now off in the North Sea, and only God can guide us in the fog, which seems to move with us, and God seems to have deserted us. 3 August. At midnight, I went to relieve the man at the wheel, and when I got to it, found no one there. The wind was steady, and as we ran before it, there was no yawing. I dared not leave it, so shouted for the mate. After a few seconds, he rushed up on deck in his flannels. He looked wild-eyed and haggard, and I greatly fear his reason has given way. He came close to me and whispered hoarsely with his mouth to my ear, as though fearing the very air might hear. It is here. I know it now. On the watch last night I saw it, like a man, tall and thin and ghastly pale. It was in the bows and looking out. I crept behind it and gave it my knife, but the knife went through it, empty as air. And as he spoke, he took his knife and drove it savagely into space. Then he went on. But it is here, and I'll find it. It is in the hold, perhaps in one of those boxes. I'll unscrew them one by one and see. You work the helm. And with a warning look and his finger on his lip, he went below. There was springing up a choppy wind, and I could not leave the helm. I saw him come out on deck again with a tool chest and a lantern and go down the forward hatchway. He is mad, stark, raving mad, and it's no use my trying to stop him. He can't hurt those big boxes. They are invoiced as clay, and to pull them about is as harmless a thing as he can do. So here I stay and mind the helm and write these notes. I can only trust in God and wait till the fog clears. Then, if I can't steer to any harbor with the wind that is, I shall cut down sails and lie by and signal for help. It is nearly all over now. Just as I was beginning to hope that the mate would come out calmer, for I heard him knocking away at something in the hold, and work is good for him, there came up the hatchway a sudden startled scream which made my blood run cold. And up on the deck he came as if shot from a gun, a raging madman with his eyes rolling and his face convulsed with fear. Save me, he cried, and then looked round on the blanket of fog. His horror turned to despair, and in a steady voice he said, You had better come too, Captain, before it is too late. He is there. I know the secret now. The sea will save me from him, and it is all that is left. Before I could say a word or move forward to seize him, he sprang on the bulwark and deliberately threw himself into the sea. I suppose I know the secret too now. It was this madman who had got rid of the men one by one, and now he has followed them himself. God help me. How am I to account for all these horrors when I get to port? When I get to port. Will that ever be? 4 August, still fog, which the sunrise cannot pierce. I know there is sunrise because I am a sailor. Why else I know not. I dared not go below. I dared not leave the helm, so here all night I stayed. And in the dimness of the night I saw it, him. God forgive me, but the mate was right to jump overboard. It was better to die like a man. To die like a sailor in blue water no man can object. But I am captain, and I must not leave my ship. But I shall baffle this fiend or monster, for I shall tie my hands to the wheel when my strength begins to fail, and along with them I shall tie that which it dare not touch. And then, come good wind or foul, I shall save my soul and my honor as a captain. I am growing weaker, and the night is coming on. If he can look me in the face again, I may not have time to act. If we are wrecked, mayhap this bottle may be found, and those who find it may understand. If not, well, then all men shall know that I have been true to my trust. God and the Blessed Virgin and the saints help a poor ignorant soul trying to do his duty. And that was the end of that. Anyway, scary stuff. Not a ship or a journey that I would like to have been on. And so in some ways, chapters 1 through 4 are a little bit scarier than chapters 5 through 10. But man, that one chapter, chapter 7, about the Demeter, that's as spooky as anything I've ever read. So, what comes next? Well, we're going to read chapters 11 through 15 or 11 through 16 or whatever. And we're going to discuss those next Friday. My video was late this week. Sorry about that. Also, I want to hear what you think about these chapters in the comments below. I want to hear what you think about them in your response videos. And I want to hear what you think if, leave comments over at Steve Donahue's channel. He's doing a read aloud with commentary of the entire book. So check that out too. And I promise you his read aloud's much better than mine, although he keeps telling me that it's not a competition. Also, I don't have the stamina to read the entire book aloud to you, but just that one excerpt from chapter 7 I think is pretty illustrative. And that's all I got for you right now. I love you guys, and please stay hydrated, stay sexy, and I'll see you in the next video.